Hello and welcome to episode quattro of season trace
The
of the podcast
Quattro. The
for
Quattro.
the recently deceased. I am one of your hosts, Rodney Godek, and with me, as always, is the illustrious.
Nate Roberts.
All right, brother, how are you doing? Are you ready for episode 4?
Oh, I'm ready to wash away the stink of Skinamarink and talk about, it was better.
A less stinky movie. Uh, Tonight, Nate is talking about there's something wrong with the children. 2023, hour 32 minutes. A family takes a weekend trip with longtime friends and their two young children, but they suspect something supernatural when the kids behave strangely after disappearing into the woods overnight. Written by TJ Simfel and David White, directed by Roxanne Benjamin, starring Alicia Wainwright and Zach Gilford of Midnight Mass fame, distributed by Paramount and also Epics slash our fan favorite Blumhouse. So, this recently came out on Paramount. We decided to pop it on. I was originally inclined to watch this one because I saw someone tweet about their aversion to the film because it didn't deal with mental health in a constructive way and they were triggered. So, trigger warning to any sensitive viewers that may not be able to deal with a movie, fictional characters, a movie that addresses mental health in the most mature slash adult slash PC way. If that offends you, I apologize. Don't watch this movie. It might upset you, and we don't want you to be upset.
What could also upset you is that you spent money to watch a bad movie.
Yes, if this is what made you subscribe to Paramount, I am sorry. This should not be it.
All right. I don't. I
I
don't
don't
want
know
to.
how to categorize this movie.
I don't. I
This
also don't.
movie is,
I also don't want to say bad movie. I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna say this is like a below average movie, like a little better than bad.
yeah,
For me, like I was actually really into it for like the first half. I'm like, this movie could be good if it ends well. And by ends well, unfortunately, it's like the entire second half of the movie. Um, but I loved the setup. I loved the characters. The acting is fine. I even like a lot of the dialogue here where it's just simple crap where they're like bored in a relationship and they kind of half hook up with other people at a party, but they kind of looked at each other and gave them the silent go
yeah,
ahead. You
the
know.
normal stuff that most grown adults with children do.
Things progress between Kyle and me.
Okay, like you took your clothes off, or Ellie? Did you guys actually?
Oh, we fucked.
Go
And
on, tell me about
and
how normal it is.
anyway, the kids like peer into this pit, and then they swap the kids. So they take the one couple takes the kids so that the married
See,
couple.
what's happening, Nate, is you're getting lost in the details of what actually occurred in the movie to rationalize why you feel not that great about it or that you feel okay about it. Uh,
I'm
Look,
just
before we get into those details of events,
all right.
the overall thing, you like some of the dialogue,
I do.
the characters' interaction, and
I
that's a relatively valid point. I agree. It's not awful.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
There are moments when the kids are bad after the kids
Sure.
are bad. There are genuine moments where the movie shines. Um,
Yeah.
they
It's
they're few and far between, and as the evil unfolds, it gets worse and worse. And
yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
it does fall apart. It's the premise is built and then it can't sustain itself and it sort of crumbles, which is inherent in our sort of movies, in the horror genre rather.
yeah.
That sometimes when you don't have a good foundation, continuing to build doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stand by the end.
Right.
I agree with everything that you said for the most part. I'm not completely sold on the believability or interestingness of the way the characters interact. I think it's kind of like fantastical or not realistic. But maybe that's just me and my tastes. So I'm willing to accept that as like that's just me not getting it in some way. But I think this movie has a like an identity crisis. It doesn't know really what it's trying to do or say. Like this is almost a monster movie,
Right.
but it's also a in the mouth of madness where the
Yeah.
person's going insane and you can't trust the narrator. It just doesn't know what it is, and it doesn't decide really until the very end, if ever. And it's just unsatisfying by the end.
Yeah.
I gave There's Something Wrong with the Children a 4 out of 10.
And I gave it a 6 out of 10.
Oh, this is our largest divergence, a whole point gap between us. I think everything else has been the same
But
or
yeah.
right next to it at the start of the season. So, episode 4, we're diverging a little bit,
Yeah,
which is apropos because there's
I
neurodivergent
uh,
characters in
to
this.
to be fair, it was a 5. I gave it a 6 the more and more I thought about it.
You gave it a 6 because of how bad everything else was.
No, 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 no.
No? Okay. It
I
grew
gave
on you.
I gave it a 6 the more I thought about it because really my real problems with it um we're in spoiler territory now.
Yes,
Uh
of course.
the when we get the insect shadow
Right.
through the glass and when and they don't explain it. Like I really
As a
want
plus?
no, no, those are the two things I really just didn't like. Like
Sure.
I think if they didn't tease the monster and then
Uh-huh.
if they actually showed us, not told us, showed us what was going on, um I think I would have probably might have even given it a 7. Like I really kind of enjoyed it. Now, I love your comment how how just because it's the first thing I watched since Skinamarink doesn't mean it's automatically good. Because I did
Yeah.
watch it like pretty much back to back with Skinamarink, and I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah,
being
yeah,
halfway
yeah.
through it. I texted Rodney. I was like, "Yo, something is
This is
awesome.
great.
You
This
gotta
is so
watch
good
son."
stuff.
Like, but that's how good the first half of this movie was. Like the setup was great. Like I was along for the ride, and then
The
they just
characters do have good chemistry. They
yeah,
act well with one another. They do
yeah,
the whole group dynamic of two couples on a weekend.
yeah,
They act well with one another. They're comfortable in their own skin as characters. And the scene where they kind of like have their falling out is very real, at least the way that it's acted or portrayed, where it
yeah,
feels genuine, like they're really like annoyed with one another and now airing dirty laundry to just antagonize one another. That all felt genuine,
yeah.
and I kudos to them with having that chemistry to sell that because obviously these aren't people that you know and actually feel this way about their your acting.
Right,
It felt real. So kudos to that. It's just the what's actually occurring to me is preposterous. Two
right.
grown
So
adults with a fucking two children are not going to go to an orgy. They're not going to do a key party type fucking thing like swingers on a whim to try to reinvigorate their marriage. That's not real life.
all right. So real life
Yeah, I
aside,
love how you just dismiss it. You're just like, you're just
like,
all right, move on.
all
Let it
right,
fucking go, Ron. I go to key parties all the time with my wife. That's just the way things are. I
right.
roll pretty hard and
We
deep.
have we
So
have 3 cats. We live at home.
it just took me out of it. I was like, you don't do this if you're fucking married and with 2 kids, but whatever.
But whatever.
I don't know. I feel like I cheated on him or something.
He'll get over it.
Mm,
All right. So some other good stuff, right? Like before, once again, before the shit goes down,
Hmm.
the girl, says the older of the two, is the girl and the brother.
Yeah.
She's like fucking with the main guy.
Zach Gilford's character from
Yeah,
MMS. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. She's like fucking with him, and it's awesome. Like this is where the movie kind of had its identity crisis, where you didn't know what was where it was going. Is this all in this guy's head? Is he going to go crazy and start killing all these people? Is he going to kill these kids because there's something wrong with them? Because he thinks there's
Right.
something wrong with them? Because he's gone crazy? Or do these kids become the killers? Like we don't really know at this point. And all of his interactions with this girl are excellent. Um, yeah, and then it kind of goes off the rails, like when the reveal comes, right? The kids kind of like attack him, and he fights back and ends up killing the boy on accident, and the parents walk in, and all these reactions were also like very unrealistic in my opinion. How they just like scream at him to get out, and they just like calmly call the police, and like the
Yeah.
mom can't talk, and the dad just grabs the phone. He's like, "My son was murdered by my friend." And they're like,
It's yes. That's
yeah.
the thing
So
that
like, so there, there,
some of the
there.
acting and delivery pulled me out for sure, and
Yeah.
that's what
So
left it below average.
yeah, when the shit goes down is like when if the movie gets weird and the movie gets bad or like starts to lose points. But like the build up I thought was really really good. Definitely worth it. I mean, the gore was good, the kills were good.
Hmm.
There's the the only thing we're taking away from here, or at least I was losing points with, was the story kind of unravels into nothing, and they don't
Right.
deliver. Instead of just wrapping it up, putting a bow on it, they're like, nah, we don't need to finish this. Let's just let the movie end. And you're like, that was not the fucking right way to do that. Especially for someone like me who was in. Like I was in.
Yeah, you were
If they
locked
would have
in.
just told me what it was, I would have passed made my judgment, and that would have been that. But because they didn't, man, it just pissed me off, and in my opinion, made the movie worse.
Yeah. So, I I agree that it's their seeming ambivalence to what it was actually about that they have with it. That's like they got caught up in like, oh, it's about all of this kind of stuff. Whatever, just enjoy it. uh, that uncertainty with what they really want to get out of it or want us to get out of it is you can feel it. I think whether it's the monster stuff, it like is it about Zach Gilford's character's inability to deal with his past transgressions and his coping mechanisms and his own psyche falling apart. Which and that's the triggering thing for this other person that I saw on Twitter. Uh, and I get their complaints. The way that they address it's like, and it's unfair. We characterize when people like films do this. There's a person that is the unreliable narrator and you're seeing the world through their eyes and so you don't know what to believe and what not to believe
Right,
because
right.
invariably you'll see other characters question them. And so in this they do it relatively ham-fistedly where they bring up his past and that he kind of did, quote unquote crazy shit. And now he's on meds and like they do the whole zoom in on the bottle where it's like, oh, he's taking lithium. That's for bipolar disorder. And so anyone that has any brush upon that whole thing and world, which is a real, very real and serious thing, is immediately going to have a response, more than likely in a negative way. And that's valid. I don't have much skin in the game in regards to that. Mental health, yeah, because I'm fucked up, but so it's just disingenuous. It doesn't do any good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're like, hey, we're gonna introduce this mental health issue, and we're gonna make the plot kind of lean on it to confuse the audience, and then once the film reveals that he's not crazy and that there is something wrong with the children, it's not an issue anymore, right? We just used it
It
to
just put the seeds of doubt
yeah,
into your thing so that you're on unstable footing, and that's kind of fucked up to do, to use mental health as a serious thing as like just this plot device to make you question reality of yourself. Like there's ways to do that properly, like Jacob's Ladder and PTSD and his mental fucking health and his breakdown, like that handles it in the way where it's like it's artful, you don't know what the fuck to think and what's going on. There's ways to deal this maturely and as an adult that's artful and respectful. But this film doesn't really do that. So for
yeah,
me, like I understand that, and it's kind of like annoying. But then, yeah, everything that happens after is just kind of bonkers. By the end, the conclusion of the third act here, with all the violence that occurs, it's fun and exciting to watch. But it's also like, what? The last scene with the with her in the car,
Yeah. The last scene
like
with her in the
the close
car.
up of her driving, she's like, "Rrr," like because she gets in the car, her close up of like her vengefully like gripping the steering wheel and she's gonna run these fuckers down is hilarious.
Right. And well, and her now ex lover, is one of them, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like, I
It
don't
just it
know.
changes hands back and forth of who you believe and who you trust, and
Yeah.
eventually she comes around, but it's too late because now he's gone and the kids are still after her. It's silly,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to your
It's just,
point, comparatively to the first half, it had a good start, good bones, and it just went nowhere.
yeah. It's unfortunate that it ended the way it did. It definitely could have been uh, way more interesting. And like we both said, the kills were good, the gore was good. Like the female cop, like that was kind of funny when she
Oh,
showed
it
up.
was ridiculous. It was
Yeah.
kind of funny in the fact that it was so bad. She's because she's a park ranger that just shows up. It's not a
Right.
cop. It's a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
ranger
Yeah.
that shows up, and she just disappears in the house. I'll go check on things. You stay here. A woman that's covered in blood that looks like she could have just mass murdered everyone. She's like,
Yeah.
"All right, you just
Yeah.
hang out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go take a look."
This is pr-
Okay.
this is this is standard operating procedure on
Yeah,
in
yeah.
this kind of thing. Just hang out here. You don't have any weapons on you, do you? What's happening?
It's very silly. So, just too many off notes that left it from becoming an actual staple comparatively to some of the stuff this year. It did a lot of things right.
Yeah.
And so in comparison, it's definitely better than average.
Yeah.
But I
It.
think if I'm being realistic, it's right below average for me, and that's why I left it
Yeah.
at the 4. So
Yeah. And in all rights, it's probably a 5. But I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 6 because if you're gonna watch a second horror movie this this season
sure,
that isn't Megan, it should be this one, and just forget about literally everything else.
yeah,
So, for episode 4 for the podcast for the recently deceased, I gave it a 6. Something wrong with the children,
I landed at a 4. Uh, I'm ready to go, Nick. Take care.
and we'll see you next time.